been dice games, like Tony Yayo was at a dice game. He was rolling dice with somebody. Shit went left. He got smacked. Guns came out. It was a Wild Wild West situation, you know?
So tell me about the dice game situation that went bad for you.
Oh, like we was in a barbershop. I'm rolling dice with a couple of I knew in the barbershop, and my man, me and him, sometimes when you roll dice and you hit a big number, you get excited. So we do the dance, we jumping around, and when you taking the money and you doing this and you dancing, that shit had tight. They was tight. So we doing a dance, felt the way, we take all your rent money, and he wanted to walk. Usually, like, when somebody asks for a walk, that's kind of like a sign of weakness. That walk you might want to try to like rob me or something. Like, I give you a walk, what I'm giving you a walk for? Are you gonna give me a walk?
Hold on, what does a walk mean?
A walk is like if I take $1,000 from you, I might give you back $300.
Okay.
But a lot of times, it's like, nah, fuck your walk. You want to keep all your money. It's gambling.
Right, it's your money, you just want it.
Yeah, so I didn't give him a walk. We had words, you know, guns was drawn, boom, boom, boom. That easy.
Okay, and what ultimately happened? Can you say or no?
Oh, it wasn't nothing. It was just a friendly shootout. It wasn't nothing serious. It was like
a friendly shootout.
Yeah, it was just me and him. Sometimes when you roll dice and you hit a big number, you get excited. So we do the dance, we jumping around. And when you taking the motherfuckers' money and you doing this and you dancing, that shit had motherfuckers tight. They was tight. So they doing the dance, we doing the dance, motherfuckers felt the way, we take all your rent money, right? And I knew the nigga, we was cool, but I took all his rent money. You know, he had a little size of me, no homo, and like, I took his rent money and he wanted to walk. Usually, like, when somebody asks for a walk, that's kind of like a sign of weakness. Like, yo, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? That walk you might want to try to like rob me or something. Like, I give you a walk. What I'm giving you a walk for? Are you gonna give me a walk? So like, say
hold on. What does a walk mean?
A walk is like if I take $1,000 from you.
Yeah.
Right. I give you. Can I get a walk? I might give you back $300.
Okay.
But a lot of times, motherfuckers like, nah, fuck your walk. You want to keep all your money. Yo, ASAP Top. Yo, Top. I know Harlem in the building and we stay gambling, Queens in the building, but I told us don't gamble with me. Give me all your money.
That was not real.
Damn.
I told you. Yo, what happened, man?
I don't know. We was playing dice. He took my car, took my girl, took everything, bro. I don't know.
Come to Jersey, Hot Out Studios, free money. ASAP Todd Tolan, man.
You ruined it. Look what the you done. You humiliated us. Look at.
One of South Jamaica Queens' most recognized names is back in the spotlight, and this time it's because someone went on camera with a serious allegation. The claim? Tony got hit during a dice game, and not just a minor confrontation either. According to the story, weapons came out and the entire situation escalated into a dangerous, tense standoff right in New York City. What makes this even gripping is who's telling it. This wasn't some random person chasing internet clout. The man speaking claims he grew up around Tony, knows him personally, and has enough history with him to speak with real weight. And when someone with genuine ties to a person starts talking, people pay attention differently. But before we dive into the dice game allegations, we need to understand who Tony really is, because this story hits completely different once you know where he came from. Tony, born Marvin Bernard on March 31, 1978, grew up in South Jamaica, Queens. And people need to truly understand what that neighborhood represented in the late 80s and early 90s. This was one of the hardest pockets in all of New York. Street life was everywhere. Financial pressure was constant, and danger wasn't something people could simply avoid. It was something they had to navigate every day. Tony's parents were Haitian immigrants who came to America grinding for a better life. His mother worked as a nurse's aide and eventually became a registered nurse, a real testament to her dedication. By his own account, Tony had a solid home life, but the block doesn't care what's happening behind closed doors. One detail that really stands out: Tony mentioned in an interview that his father constantly warned him to stay off the boulevard, and Tony laughed telling the story, saying that warning actually made him want to go there more. The irony? That exact boulevard is where Tony was later arrested. His father saw it coming years before it happened. By his mid-teens, the streets had a serious grip on him. At just 15 years old, Marvin Bernard dropped out of school in the 10th grade. A year later, his parents separated and his father was no longer in the home. That left a 16-year-old kid navigating street life with no real safety net, and the block doesn't take days off. It was on those same South Jamaica streets where Tony crossed paths with two people who would change everything. One was a kid called Boobo, who the world would later know as 50 Cent. The other was Christopher Lloyd, who became Lloyd Banks. The three grew tight fast, moving together and coming up in one of New York's most unforgiving environments. Tony has spoken about how 50 Cent was already a serious figure in the neighborhood back then, reportedly running a crew of around 20 people. That's not regular street activity. That's someone operating on a different level entirely, and Tony was right there beside him. This background matters directly to the story people are discussing today. Dice games in South Jamaica weren't rare events. They were part of everyday life. Corners, barbershops, parks, wherever people gathered with money and pride, dice games followed. Think about what that timeline actually meant. In 2003, 50 Cent dropped In the Club and became a superstar almost overnight. Get Rich or Die Tryin' moved over 800,000 copies in its first 4 days. G-Unit released Beg for Mercy, which went platinum. The entire crew was selling out arenas and dominating every platform, and Tony was watching it all from behind bars. But 50 Cent didn't move on without him. He wore Free Tony shirts publicly and kept his name alive in every interview and on every stage. That loyalty wasn't performative, it was consistent and real. People who had never heard a single Tony record still knew his name because those shirts were everywhere. When Tony finally came home, the momentum was waiting. His debut album, Thoughts of a Predicate Felon, dropped in August 2005 and debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. The G-Unit machine, combined with genuine street loyalty, made sure he landed strong. But even with the success, the albums, the tours, and the fame, the street mindset never fully disappeared. Tony has said it himself, the lifestyle follows you. The attention, the money, the gambling, it all stays in the orbit. And that word gambling is exactly where this story starts connecting. Back in January 2023, following the tragic death of Takeoff, who was killed after a dice game situation in Houston, Tony sat down and shared his own experiences with dice games turning dangerous. He described being at a game inside a New York City barbershop where he and his crew were winning heavily. The man on the losing end had dropped everything, reportedly including rent money. When the game ended, the man asked for a walk, meaning a small portion of his money back, just to leave with something. Tony refused, and according to him, that refusal flipped the entire energy in the room. He's primarily known for his connection to Bang M Smurf, another former G-Unit affiliate. This isn't some outsider showing up for attention. There's history behind the name.
You meet Tony Yayo? You know Tony Yayo since you were a kid?
I know Tony Yayo since I was a kid, yeah. He was signed to not signed, because they wasn't signed, but they was in an underground group called Rags to Riches. It was him, Fat Shy, AKA DJ Rough Hands, God bless the dead, and my man Katif, God bless the dead. They call him Huey P.
This wasn't someone fabricating a connection just to grab views. Domination was genuinely embedded in that world. He moved around those same circles, recognized the same faces, understood the same street codes, and knew the energy that surrounded that entire crew. When someone with that kind of proximity speaks, people don't just listen, they lean in, because insiders carry a different kind of weight. And what Domination told Cam Capone News on May 23, 2025 was nothing short of explosive. But what makes it even more interesting is what he said before he even got to the dice game claim, because that opening set the entire tone for everything that followed. When the interview kicked off and the conversation turned to how Domination and Tony actually know each other, Dom made one thing crystal clear. He said he's known Tony since he was young, that they met on the block, and that their connection was real and rooted. These weren't two strangers who crossed paths at an event. They came from the same type of environment, moved through the same New York streets we've been talking about this entire time. But then the conversation shifted, and shifted hard. The host referred to Tony as Dom's big homie, implying Tony was someone he looked up to, someone higher up in the street hierarchy. Domination didn't hesitate. He shut that down immediately. He made it clear he never looked up to Tony, not once, and said there wasn't much there to look up to in the first place. His exact framing painted Tony as nothing more than an ordinary hustler on the block, just another guy outside. No special aura, no elevated status. That is a heavy statement.
Yayo was at a dice game. He was rolling dice with somebody. Shit went left. He got smacked. Guns came out. It was a Wild Wild West situation, you know?
And when someone who never placed Tony on a pedestal tells a story like this, it lands completely differently than if it came from an outsider. This is the moment the whole video has been building toward, because this is where things get genuinely messy. About 13 minutes into his interview with Cam Capone News, Domination brought up a specific incident involving Tony at a dice game. And the way he described it, this was no minor misunderstanding. This was a full, street-level confrontation with money, pride, and reputation sitting right in the center of it. According to Domination, Tony was at a dice game rolling with somebody. On the surface, that sounds completely normal for the world we've been describing. Dice games were everyday culture in South Jamaica, Queens. Corners, blocks, barbershops, wherever people gathered with money on the line. But then Domination claims the energy shifted, and when it shifted, Tony got hit. He says Tony was physically struck during a dice game right in New York City. Let that sink in. A man connected to G-Unit, one of the most powerful rap crews of that entire era, allegedly got hit over a dice game in front of people watching. But it didn't stop there. According to Domination, after Tony got hit, weapons came out. He described the scene like something out of the Wild West, multiple people allegedly reaching during a dice game dispute that spiraled completely out of control. Just pause on that for a second. This wasn't some long-running beef that had been building for months. According to Domination, it started and ended at a dice game, the same kind of environment Tony has openly said he grew up around. And it allegedly went sideways in a matter of moments. Money, ego, and pride doing exactly what they've always done in that world. Now, some people online have pushed back, saying Domination is exaggerating or chasing attention, and that's a fair point to raise, because not every story told in a hip-hop interview is the full truth. People stretch old street stories for spotlight. That happens, and nobody should pretend otherwise. But here's what separates this claim from a loose rumor. Domination didn't say he heard about it later. He said he was there and watched it happen. A witness account hits differently than secondhand gossip. And the way he told it, the dice game tension, the confrontation, the weapons coming out, had real detail and texture. That's why people started paying attention instead of immediately dismissing it. And the wider reaction online wasn't universal disbelief either. A lot of hip-hop fans responded more like this tracks, like it connected to things people had already heard whispered about that era in those streets. So now the biggest question hanging over everything, has Tony responded? As of now, Tony has not publicly addressed Domination's claims from that interview. No social media post, no interview response, no direct statement, nothing. That silence could mean a few things. First, Tony may simply not want to give this story more oxygen. In hip-hop, responding to every claim can make a situation larger than it needs to be.
Tony has spoken in interviews about the pressure of maintaining a street image. He once said, "You never really have peace because you're always watching your back and managing how people see you." And that's exactly why Domination's story hits harder than just the incident itself. Someone who knew Tony before the fame, before the platinum records, is now saying on camera that back then, Tony wasn't feared, he was just a regular guy from the block. That's the real story sitting underneath all of this. Because this isn't only about someone allegedly getting hit at a dice game. It's about the gap between image and reality. And in hip-hop, that gap gets ignored constantly. G-Unit's entire appeal was authenticity, Real guys from real streets with real lives before the music. The Free Tony campaign worked because fans believed Tony was a genuine part of that story, doing real time while his crew blew up around him. That narrative carried serious weight. But the actual streets are messy and complicated. The block doesn't care about platinum plaques or sneaker deals. On the street, what matters is what happens in real time, in front of people who actually know you. And that's why Domination's story, whether people believe it fully or not, reminds everybody that the block keeps its own memory. It has its own receipts. To Domination, Tony was never a king or an untouchable figure. He was just another guy moving through the same pressure everybody else was dealing with. And calling somebody ordinary in that world isn't automatically disrespect. Most people from South Jamaica in the 80s and 90s were simply trying to survive day by day. Being ordinary just meant being human. The problem starts when the image being sold to the public looks far bigger than the real person behind it. That gap is exactly what the internet loves to dig into, and it's what makes stories like this one spread so fast. To be fair though, this picture shouldn't only be about putting Tony on blast. As of now, Tony's still active and still connected to the culture. He co-hosts The Real Report with Uncle Murda, and that show has been pulling solid numbers. He speaks openly about the industry, breaks down current hip-hop moments, and brings genuine perspective as someone who's been inside the game for over 2 decades. Earlier this month, he even announced that G-Unit Reebok sneakers are making a comeback, confirming that there's still real money in motion behind the G-Unit brand. Despite everything, the comparisons to 50 and Banks, the legal history, the controversies, Tony is still here, still relevant enough that one Cam Capone news interview can have the internet going crazy. That says something on its own. From Marvin Bernard dropping out of school at 15 in South Jamaica, Queens, to running alongside 50 Cent and Lloyd Banks, to helping build G-Unit from the ground up, to sitting behind bars while his crew went platinum, Tony carved out a real place in hip-hop history. And now, decades later, a former associate goes on camera with a dice game story, and suddenly, his name is trending across hip-hop spaces all over again. That's Tony's life in 2025. Still active, still debated, and never, ever boring. So, now I want to hear from you. Do you think Tony responds to this, or does he stay quiet and let it fade? And do you believe Domination, or does this feel like somebody using a bigger name for attention? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one has people genuinely split.